Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Hello and welcome to the 290th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Pep Sports Drive to the GHSA State Title. Today we are going to be joined by North Oconee head coach Tyler Aurandt. The Titans are 8-0. They're coming off a historic season where they made it to the semis for the first time, and this year they look absolutely incredible heading into the final two games. So we'll catch up with the Titans, and this is the first time we've had him on this season, so I'm really excited about that. And then we'll talk about the first night of Elite 8 volleyball action. We had 6A, 4A, and 2A play last night. We'll set the stage for the semis, and we'll go over the composite rankings like we do every Wednesday. So let's go ahead and get started with that and look at the latest rankings heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. So in 7A, Mill Creek returns at number 1. They held on for a close victory over Collins Hill, didn't shift in the poll at all. Walton comes in at number 2 this week. Once again, you got Colquitt at 3, Buford at 4, Carrollton at 5. Newton was at 5 last week. Their loss recently to Archer, that bumped them down a little bit. And now they are at number 6. You got a two-way tie with Parkview and Norcross at number 7. Grayson at number 9. Westlake fell to number 10. And then also receiving votes, Peachtree Ridge and then Milton. So until this week, Score Atlanta was the only poll out of the 6 that had Peachtree Ridge ranked. That changes for the first time. You have the Maxwell Computer Ratings has Peachtree Ridge at number 9, and that puts them a little bit above Milton, who comes in at number 12, and that is GPB and Maxwell. They both have Milton at 10. Milton, of course, had a huge victory over West Forsyth last week to win their 31st straight region game. So that's the big changes there. And obviously this week we're going to see the poll really shift. You got some big time matchups. Peachtree Ridge, Norcross. You got Archer against Grayson. That would be big time. And then looks like Milton's going to be playing Lambert in 2 weeks. But there should be some shifts. Also, Colquitt against Valdosta coming up. All right, in 6A, looks like it remains the same in the top 5. The movement's going to come, though, with Houston County, who just got beat and shut out 27-0 by Thomas County Central, who comes in at number 1, 56 total votes. You got Gainesville at number 2, 55. Douglas County, they've been number 3, I think 5 straight weeks now. All those teams are 8-0. Lee County at number 4. Hughes at number 5. Rome at number 6. And then tied for 7th, Marist and Roswell. Houston County fell to number 9. And then Woodward Academy comes in at number 10. Also receiving votes tied for 11th with 1 vote apiece. That is North Atlanta and Blessed Trinity. North Atlanta is number 10 in the Maxwell, and BT is number 10 in Max Preps. North Atlanta is 7-1 after the first loss. BT is 6-2. Their only losses to Roswell and Marist, both top 10 teams. North Atlanta's only loss to Marist. All right, in 5A, thought this was interesting. This will be a change from last week. You got Coffee, number 1 again at 8-0, and then tied for second is Cartersville and Creekside with 48 votes each. So Score has Creekside at number 1, and so does 680. Cartersville does not have. Sorry, they're number 1 in Cartersville's number 1 in the GPP poll. The AJC has Coffee number 1, and so that's what's interesting to me. It's one of the few polls where across the board you see different teams represented at number 1. It's usually more cut, like with like 4A. Every poll has Benedictine number 1, but in 5A there's a lot of different teams that people are considering. Cartersville is 9-0. They've got a big matchup this week against Dalton for the region title. So let's go to the rest of the poll. You got Jefferson sitting solid at number 4. Kell moved up to a tie with Ware County at number 5, both receiving 35 votes. Hiram at 7. Tied for 8th is Calhoun and Warner Robins. And then tied at 10th is GAC and Dalton. You also have Harris County, Jones County, and Eastside receiving votes. So that's 14 teams I just named. That is the most out of any classification in terms of teams that are getting top 10 placement. So 5A looks deep once again. All right, in 4A, Benedictine number 1. North Oconee comes in at number 2. They are number 1 this week in the Maxwell computer ratings. That's a change from last week, so they do have a first place vote. You got Bainbridge at 3, Perry at 4, and Spalding at 5. Perry and Spalding are getting ready to square off. It's going to be the season finale for Spalding. Obviously a region championship game, and then Perry's going to have one more after that. So Spalding's looking to close out a perfect season this week. It's a big time Region 2 matchup. You got Stockbridge coming in at number 6. And Stockbridge, it's always crazy to me. Again this week. So we have in the score pool Stockbridge at number 4. Their only 2 losses are to Douglas County and Colquitt County. Higher classifications and top 3 teams. They've not lost since. They're coming off a 49-0 win over Lovett. They've been demolishing the 4A opponents. 680 still does not have them ranked, so I'm being nice about it, but they've really got to look at Stockbridge. They have had a great run, and they're going to repeat as region champs again. They swept the field last year, and they are way out in front this year. The big win over Lovett, and then who else is in that region? Well, you got Pace Academy and Luella. Luella just beat Pace Academy, so they got a significant region lead. They're going to be a team to watch. But we have them at number 4. The computer has them at number 2. Max Preps at 7. AJC at 8. GPB at 10. So they're at number 6 this week. You got Burke County at 7. Central Carroll moved up to number 8. And then Troop at number 9. Cairo at 10. Holy Innocents and Wayne County. A team that's not in that top 10, but I think very well could end up closing out the year in the top 10 is LaGrange. They're coming off a massive win over Trinity Christian, 42-14. They looked outstanding in that one. So 4A is looking exciting, and we'll obviously talk to Coach Aurandt here in a second about North Oconee. All right, in 3A, Calvary Day returns at number 1 ahead of Cedar Grove. The score poll does have Cedar Grove at number 1. and I think that is very valid. You look at their 4-5 record. Yeah, they had some losses early to 7A teams, but against 3A this year, and so far in the region, it's been very dangerous. If you're another team in 3A looking at the success they're having, they beat Douglas, I think it was like 65-6. Douglas just beat Carver Atlanta last week, and then they obviously shut down Sandy Creek. So they look outstanding. Seth put them at number 1. I can't disagree with that. But Calvary Day gets more votes overall. They're number 1 in the AJC and GPP. In addition to 680, you got Stevens County still undefeated at number 3. Mary Persons number 4. Savannah Christian number 5. Lumpkin County number 6. They're coming off a triple overtime. It might have even been 4 overtime win over White County this last week to remain 8-0. Morgan County at number 7. Sandy Creek dropped to number 8. And, man, fell all the way out of the GPB poll after their loss. That's a little crazy. Carver Columbus is at number 9. They've had some big-time wins as of late, and they're 6-3. Obviously, another one of those losses is to Brookwood, a game where they were out in front the entire time, and Brookwood needed an onside kick and a last-second field goal to win that one. Now you got Thomasville at number 10, Bremen and Upson lead. All right, in 2A, Appling County slightly leads Thompson with 54 total to 52. Pierce County is right behind them with 50. Tied for 4th, Callaway and Toombs County. You got Fitzgerald at number 6, a team that's probably been in more finals than any team in this 2A poll the last decade. Northeast and Fellowship Christian are tied for 7th. You got Rockmart at number 9, a very explosive, dangerous, battle-tested team that made a big run last year in the Class 2A playoffs. You got Athens Academy at number 10, and also receiving votes are Cook, Spencer, and Columbia. A team that I think is on the edge of the poll is North Cobb Christian. They won their first ever region title this year. Had a big win over South Atlanta, the region champion from a year ago. That was 2 weeks ago. And then they followed it with another sizable victory over Mount Perrin. So they are cruising. The quarterback's playing great. And that's a team that won 10 games last year before falling to Rockmart in the playoffs. Rockmart did beat them pretty badly in that game, but it didn't go well for North Cobb Christian. I think they're going to fare much better this year. And in that loss, Rockmart jumped out to a 28-0 lead, and North Cobb Christian threw 5 interceptions in the game. So no one's winning when you're making mistakes like that. So I think they're going to clean that up. And North Cobb Christian's a team in 2A that I think is going to make some noise. All right, Class A Division I. Prince Avenue Christian is at number 1 again. They're the top team in every poll except 680 has Swainsboro, who's 8-0, at number 1. We were talking a little bit ago about the potential playoff matchups, and it looks like if things stand, Prince Ave and Swainsboro would play in a rematch of last year's state title in the 3rd round. So that would be very intriguing. Swainsboro with DeMello Jones, they have one of the fastest teams in the state. They run the ball extremely well. And then Prince Ave, it's the complete different style. They're obviously the air raid system with Aaron Philo, who is having another big-time year. Commerce jumped all the way up to number 3 after their huge win over Elbert County. And so that region is well represented. You got Commerce at 3, Rabun County 5, Elbert County 6. Elbert County beat Rabun, but the margin of victory Commerce just had over Elbert County was enough to leave Rabun actually higher than Elbert in the poll. Yeah, Bleckley County at number 7. I didn't mention Tryon is at number 4, 8-0 still. Definitely one of the better teams in Class A Division I. You got Lamar County, Bryan County, Dublin, and then Mount Vernon is at number 11. They returned to the poll, and they've looked impressive. They had a tough loss to Athens. I think that was Athens Academy, a 2A team, but they have done really well ever since. All right, in Class A Division II, Schley County returns at number 1, and they had a big victory. I think it was over Manchester this last week to remain the top team. They fell in a heartbreaker last year to Bowden in the state championship. They're the highest scoring team in the state, I think, definitely in Class A Division II, and they've been very impressive, pretty much wire to wire, number 1 in that classification. Greene County at 2, Bowden, the defending state champs, at number 3. You got Clinch County at number 4. They've been outstanding, and I'd put them as a sleeper to win state this year. So many good athletes. You got Manchester at 5, Macon County 6, Jenkins County at 7, Telford County at 8, Early County 9, Aquinas at 10, and then also receiving votes Lincoln County, Johnson County, and Washington Wilkes. So there you have it with the composite rankings. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be joined on the other side by North Oconee.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me, can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands, improper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
All right, welcome back. And so it looks like we have Coach Aurandt ready to go, so let's welcome him onto the show. Hey, Coach, thank you so much for coming on. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing, Craig?
Doing well. So, first of all, congratulations on the 8-0 start so far. Looks like you guys picked up right where you left off last season. What have you seen from your team so far?
Yeah, we got a lot of experienced kids that are back this year that have played since their sophomore season. So we're very mature, but I've been very pleased with the way they've progressed over the last 8 weeks. We got a different schedule where our bye weeks are built in at the beginning. So we will have played 8 straight weeks of football when we get through next week. So, you know, different ways we've had to manage that and adjust. I think our kids have handled it well, but I'm very, very pleased with their maturity and where we're at right now.
Yes, and you mentioned the early bye weeks, and then you're also in this really big Region 8, one of the larger regions in the state with the current format, so you guys jumped right into it. What has that been like, though? You mentioned the 8 straight weeks, but also just region game after region game.
Yeah, it's different. I've never experienced this before as a head coach. I think a long time ago that used to be a part of it where you'd play a lot of region ball games before they started, you know, reshuffling the classes. But, you know, it's unique. You have to find different ways to keep your kids fresh and not beat them up too bad through practice and give them breaks at certain points so that, when you get to the end, you got a chance to be fresh and you got a chance to be competitive. But when you're playing in a group, a region schedule like ours, and you're going through an 8-week grind of good football, it weighs on those kids. And they have different stressors. You got to think about school and all those different things that they go through on a daily basis where the grind can get long before it needs to get long. So it's just constantly every week looking at different ways to restructure things to keep things interesting and keep them engaged.
Yes, and what has the day-to-day been like? I think last time you came on, we talked about how outstanding the strength and conditioning program is, but just how has your team just handled the day-to-day, just being the region front runner, but just trying to improve throughout the year?
Yeah, I think the focus has just had to be on us and not worry about who we're playing each and every week, and just what do we need to do each day to get ourselves in a position and make a run late. And so we keep challenging them in that regard. But you do have to do some unique things with practice because I don't know that there's any sport that's as physical as ours to where you're not putting them in a situation where they're hurt when you need them the most. So giving them the opportunities to recover, whether it's, you go helmets one day when you wouldn't normally go helmets, or, hey, we're going to cut practice short this week and get you out of here. Doing those things and just worrying about us and trying to take care of us has been the focus for the last 8 to 9 weeks.
Yeah, and in terms of your team, I know a lot of the guys that returned from last season, but one position that I was a little unsure of was the secondary. I know you guys had Jack Fabris back there for a few years, but who stepped up in the safety role in the secondary this season, and what have you seen?
Yeah, Trey Linhart, who is a senior for us, he's committed to App State, who played corner last year, has kind of moved into that position that Jack had played for the last 3 years. I think he's done a really good job. He's super athletic. He's got a good build and good size to him. He sits at 6'1", 200 pounds. So he's able to play that position the way Jack did. That position plays around the box a lot and helps us fit in the run game. So it's finding an athlete, but also finding somebody durable enough to go in there and handle teams that like to try and run the football. But yeah, I think he's done an unbelievable job. And then we've had 2 kids step up at corner. When you lose Khalil Barnes and then you move Trey in, that kind of changes things defensively. So Damani Taylor and Thomas Eckert are 2 kids that have stepped up at corner, and they've played really, really well. I'm very proud of the way they've grown and developed over the last several weeks. But we're seeing pretty good play out of those 2 kids as well.
That's right. And yeah, Khalil Barnes at Clemson now, another great player, but that's the exact answer you'd want to hear, because it seems like you guys had a lot of size in the secondary, physicality, but that's an area you feel like you've been able to replace and the guys are doing their thing.
Yeah, and I've been really proud of what they did, the last several weeks, but the way they carried themselves in the off season, and they knew it. Like, they knew we were going to be trying to fill big shoes on the defensive side of the ball when you lose a Jack Fabris and you lose a Khalil Barnes. And I think them taking ownership and understanding, like, here's my opportunity. I've just been very pleased with how they come to practice and they work every day to give them the best opportunity to go be successful and our team be successful. But, they do things the way you'd want them to do it. They're great leaders. They work hard. They're just great kids. And that's one of the things we talk about all the time is great kids. Great people are going to make great players. And so when you got good kids that are doing it the right way, that's going to translate into them being good on Friday nights.
Yes, sir. And then you guys got 2 games left. You'll have an opportunity to clinch back-to-back perfect regular seasons. That just says a lot about the day-to-day, just the consistency of the program. But I want to ask about the region, because behind you guys, it is going to be quite interesting these next couple weeks. You've seen 6 of the 8 opponents so far. In my view, teams like East Forsyth, Madison County, they've improved this year as well. But what have you just seen in Region 8?
Yeah, I think everybody's taken steps from last year and gotten their program to a different level. East Forsyth being a new school. Then you've got Madison County, who's traditionally been pretty good at what they do. And then Sean Pender over at North Hall, who this is second year in the program. And then Leroy Riles. I mean, we have really, really good head coaches in this region. And I think, over the last 24 months, you can see them developing their programs and the culture within their program to give them an opportunity to compete week in and week out. Those guys have done an unbelievable job, and haven't seen them in person except for the 2 that we have left to play. I think that they're going to go and surprise some people because they've got good football teams and they don't hurt themselves. That's the one thing that I've noticed is, they're not putting the ball on the ground. They're not making stupid decisions and having frustrating penalties that generally hurt football teams. And when we played them, they play very, very clean football. So I know what they're capable of, and I'm excited to see what all those guys are going to play off. They've certainly done a really, really several months of putting their teams in to have an opportunity to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when you have 9 teams fighting for 4 spots, all 4 of those teams that are going in are going to be able to make noise, because pretty much it's like a mini playoffs just to get in there. So it will be interesting for sure these next few weeks. I want to ask you, though, about your quarterback, though. Max Wilson had a tremendous...
I think you said it. Him and his ability to manage the game. And I don't want to call him a game manager, but he doesn't put you in bad situations. Like, he understands, and he understands when he needs to take risk and when he's capable of tucking the ball and running. And I think that's one of the things that makes him special is his legs. So when the ball's in his hands and makes a threat to tuck the ball and run it. And I think that's one of the things that makes him go is his ability to make a really good decision and split a split-second decision and it be right. Is the level of those around him, and that's all you could ask. But very pleased with what he's, the body of work that he's put together this year. I'm excited to see, where he's going to be able to, and a couple of his teammates are going to be able to take us.
Yep, and then last year he had 14 passing, 14 rushing touchdowns, a ton of yards. So do you have a general sense of where his stats are at this year?
I would say he's probably pretty close to that. You may even add in a couple receiving touchdowns because we've done some different things, because I haven't looked at those in the last couple weeks. I just know that when we go in on Sunday, he's a kid that we talk about that's done really, really well and setting us up to win ball games. And that's what we're trying to hang our hat on is, not so to make sure that we have more points than the other team or that we advance in a couple weeks. And I think that's a credit to Max and his selflessness as a leader of our football team.
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting about him, because he's a great quarterback, but he's also a guy with his athleticism. He could be playing on both sides of the football. He could be playing a lot of different positions. That's right. Yeah, he's played some safety too. He has an interception. I do know that. But, he's just a great athlete. And he's one of those kids you're not going to get to coach very often that you can put in several different places because he's smart enough to do it. And
He understands the game well enough to do it, and he's athletic enough to do it. So, he's a kid that we try to feature in what we do and try and put the ball in his hands as much as we can.
Yeah, and I know Harrison Faulkner's an underclassman behind him. I mean, what have you seen from him just in practice and then some game opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what gives us the opportunity to move Max around, is you've got a kid that plays the same position that's earned every one of his opportunities, and then when he's out there, he makes plays. He's got a live arm. He runs around, and I think that's one of the things he does best is he's very good at living. Like, when the play breaks down, he always finds a way, to hit a receiver or to make something happen that nobody in the stadium thought was capable of happening. So he's got some different threats, different than Max. But I think the two of them together play really, really well together and give us a different dynamic and a different wrinkle. But I've been really, really pleased with him. He's going to be really, really special. He is special. But I think, as he continues to grow, develop, and mature, he's going to be one of the elite players in the state of Georgia.
Yes, sir. And then what about your tight end, Jack Kelly? Seems like he's a pretty big mismatch out there on the field.
Yeah, no, Jack's had a great season. As a sophomore, we kind of started playing with the idea of him playing tight end because he kind of grew out of the body that he had when he was a freshman, where he came in as a Mike linebacker. He quickly ate his way out of that and moved down to the defensive line. We talked about moving him over to play some tight end, and I thought, hey, man, you have a chance to play at the next level at this position as big as you are. And he has done so well the last 24 months of picking up that position, because that's probably outside of quarterback, offensively for us, position to play because of all the things that we asked him to do. And he has done it really well. He's really, really physical. He's 6'3" and a half, 6'4", 230 pounds, so he's a big kid that just creates matchup problems when you're talking about playing, or splitting him out or playing against other high school kids that aren't maybe as big or as developed as him. So he continues to learn, and I think his best football is in front of him, which is scary to think because of how well he's played for us. But he's going to be great wherever he ends up. Right now he's committed to Army. And I think that they got a steal. I think that he could have had an opportunity to go bigger than that, and maybe he will. And I think he's kind of one of those hidden gems in our state that people may not have seen because he didn't get those snaps as a sophomore as maybe somebody else did. But, if somebody were to jump on him late at the FBS level at, a big school, man, I'd be interested to see what he does. But he's got a great opportunity at Army. Those coaches have been awesome to him, and whether he ends up there or a big fish jumps in late, see what happens. But I'm super proud of him.
Yeah, I could see that happening because I noticed he just got a preferred walk-on opportunity at Georgia, so that tells me that they're putting it out there, and once they see some more film on him, I mean, that's just great size. You said 6'3" and a half, 230, 240. That's right. The ideal size right there. Another guy, though, Landon Roldan, he's had a big year for you. Just talk about what he's brought to the offense.
Yeah, there's another one that's had to fill big shoes with Khalil Barnes moving on. He was actually KB's backup last year. And, you learn from a kid that was extremely successful. I think their skill and their ability is very, very similar. He's got elite speed where, we've measured him at 21, 22 miles per hour on our GPS. And I think that's what separates him from a lot of people is he has the ability when the ball's in his hand to break away and outrun. He's got the ability in routes to create separation and create opportunities. But yeah, he has done a really, really good job this year of continue to learn what we're trying to do offensively and how to get himself in a position to be open. I think the quarterbacks have a lot of trust in him and his ability to go make plays. But yeah, he's had a great season.
Yes, and I mean the whole team seemingly has, but I want to talk about the trenches. What have you seen? We know how physical football gets in Class 4A with some of these big-time programs like to run the rock. What have you seen the defensive line, offensive line so far this year?
Yeah, that's one of our groups that on both sides of the ball, we returned everybody. We returned all 5 linemen. We returned all the guys we rotated in the defensive line. And I'm really pleased with how they've gone about their business. It's real easy to get complacent in today's society, and I don't know that group. I don't know that group's done that. I think they've continued to grow and improve. It's hard to play that position for us because of how physical we like to play, and it's easy to say, I don't want to do this anymore. But those kids have embraced that, and they understand what we're looking for. And those are the 2 groups that kind of make us go. That we've been really good up front and we played really good defense. And, both of those groups give us a chance to win every Friday.
And for people that have kind of caught on the last few years, seen what North Oconee's been doing, talk about just from when you first got there to now, just the caliber of athlete you have now, and just how that foundation, the hard work, the training has just really just improved that aspect of the program.
Yeah, I think it starts in the weight room with what we do from a weight training perspective, a strength training perspective. I think that those kids embrace that. It's hard to say what happened before here. I just, we tried to focus on what we could control, and I thought that our kids have really embraced that role of we've got to take the weight room seriously. It's got to be a big part of what we do, and that kind of builds the foundation of each one of these athletes. And then I think our coaches do a really good job of preparing them week to week, but more importantly, they put them in positions to be successful. They're not going to ask these kids to go do something that they're not capable of doing. And using each one of their strengths as an advantage. And I think that's what gives these kids an opportunity on Friday to be special. We got good players, but if they didn't come and work in the weight room the way they needed to, they wouldn't be where they are right now. And if they didn't come work at practice the way they needed to, they wouldn't have the record that they have right now. So it's a credit to our kids, one, because they're the most important part of it, but then our coaches, two, that they're doing everything in their power to help these kids get prepared for ball games. And then the players are receptive to that. They take coaching really, really well.
Certainly. Well, good luck, Coach, this week. As you mentioned, 8 straight games, all in region to close this thing out. We'll be watching you guys. Best of luck, Coach.
Thanks so much, Craig. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. All right. So there goes the Titans. And, man, what a team they have. A quarterback that can play safety, running back. We didn't even mention special teams. You got incredible kicking game, kickers, return men, and that's the biggest difference with North Oconee the last few years. They never used to be a team where when they're on the field, they're more athletic, they're bigger, faster, stronger. But now that's the case, and it's all through their hard work. Just a few short years ago, and I use this example a lot. Let's go to I think it was the 2020 season. In 2020, Coach Aurandt got there a little before that, but they finished 5-6. They had a playoff win over Fayette County, and then they played Cedartown in the second round. Cedartown beat them 56-0. Cedartown is a strong, physical football team. So that was obviously the area that North Oconee had to get better at. have to get strong enough to where if a team's going to come and have just huge running backs run the wishbone, you got to be able to match that physically. Well, they had a great season in 2021, went 10-4, and then last year they fall to Cedartown by just a touchdown. And that team that Cedartown had last year was probably the best Cedartown team ever. So that just shows North Oconee's gotten better, and even as Cedartown grew into the program it was, North Oconee was catching right up with them. They returned all the pieces from last year. They are a team, they aren't selfish. They have all these different playmakers. You saw the tight end, he already is committed to Army, but he's getting additional looks as they continue just balling out week after week. And let's not forget that North Oconee is also probably the best athletic program in 4A. They dominate on pretty much every sport, whether it's baseball, obviously golf, tennis, and so you have a lot of that athleticism comes from guys being 2-sport, 3-sport athletes. So very exciting. They got 2 games left. They're trying to clinch perfect seasons 2 years in a row, and they're currently at number 2 in the 4A rankings. So be really exciting to see if they can take that next step. They made history with their first ever semifinal appearance last year. Now they're trying to get to the finals. Let's take one more quick break and we'll be back on the other side.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, welcome back. We got one more segment to go. Let's just look at the rest of Region 8 right now. I mentioned it's a little bit of a mess right now, and I can't even figure out how it's going to play out. It's like every week, if you had a calculator for potential variations of the seeding, it usually gets narrowed down as the weeks go on, but now it's like, it's crazy. So Madison County and North Hall are both 4-2 in the region. You have Cedar Shoals and Cherokee Bluff at 4-3. So there are 4 teams right there that are still in the mix. And then you have East Forsyth at 3-3. So they still have 2 matchups left. And so all those teams have lost to at least one of the other ones. And then there's a lot of crossover in that. You have Madison County, their 2 losses, I think, were obviously North Oconee and then Cedar Shoals. And then they're going to play Walnut Grove and East Hall. So Madison County beat Cherokee Bluff, beat East Forsyth last week, but lost to Cedar Shoals. Cedar Shoals lost to East Forsyth, lost to Cherokee Bluff, but obviously beat Madison County. And then you got Chesadee in the mix. It's almost certainly going to come down to a massive 3-way, 4-way tie, and someone's going to miss out on the playoffs that beat an opponent that's going to get in. That's guaranteed to happen. So that will be interesting, but at the top of that region will be North Oconee. I'm going to pull up last night's volleyball scores really quick. Before we go into the matchups, so St. Pius beat Johns Creek. So the Region 6 sweep is not going to happen. There's a 3-1 victory. This is Class 6A. You had Alpharetta, the number 2 ranked team, beat Woodward Academy 3-0. Pope beat Marist 3-0. And then Blessed Trinity beat South Effingham 3-0. So that region will have 3 out of the 4. Johns Creek was the number 3 seed. BT the number 4. Pope the number 1. Alpharetta the number 2. In Class 4A, Pace Academy, the number 1 ranked team in 4A, beat Stars Mill, the number 3 ranked team, 3-0. Central Carroll, a team that I gotta admit I did not have them as highly ranked as I should have, but they're on to the semifinals with a 3-1 win over Troop. They are having a great year. And then Westminster beat Whitewater 3-0, and Lovett beat Trinity Christian 3-1. So the final 4 in Class 4A will be Pace Academy against Central Carroll, and then on the other side, Westminster and Lovett, the classic rivalry. All right, let's go to Class 2A. All right, you had number 1 ranked Landmark Christian beat North Cobb Christian 3-1. Savannah Arts, let me just double check this real quick. Yeah, Landmark Christian won 3-1 over North Cobb Christian. Savannah Arts beat Providence Christian. That was a battle between top seeds, 3-1. So it's going to be Landmark against Savannah Arts. And then on the other side, top seed Model beat Pierce County 3-0. And then number 1 ranked Mount Perrin beat ELCA 3-0. So tonight we're going to have big matchups in 7A, 5A, 3A, and Class A. So you can find all that at scoreatl.com. We'll have it updated as the results come in. The game we're going to be televising this week, I haven't talked about it yet, but it's going to be Grayson and Archer. Archer's currently leading that region. It's going to be a huge matchup, playoff implications, and Archer's been a hot team. They beat, obviously, the Parkview win, but playing Grayson will be tough. And I'm excited to see Grayson again, how they match up, just all the athletes that they're going to have out there on the field, and just a big test for them. Let me pull up the last few seasons to see how they stacked up. Just give me 1 sec. All right, so going into the game, Archer's on the 4-game win streak. They beat Parkview 28-27, South Gwinnett 22-12. Last season, Grayson dominated the matchup 41-0. But overall, I definitely expect it to be a lot closer this time around. But overall, Grayson is 11-2 in the series. Last Archer win came in 2017 when Archer went into the matchup ranked number 3. Grayson was number 1. So a lot of these have been top 10 matchups. They went into overtime in 2019. Grayson won on a field goal. Who's calling me? And then in 2021, it was a 15-13 Grayson win. So there's been a lot of close ones, 26-24 in 2015, and at least one of the teams has been in the top 10 every single time. So this should be interesting, and I'm excited to see both of those teams in action again. We haven't seen them since the Corky Kell. But that's it for today. We're going to be back tomorrow with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. Do you know any guests yet?
Going for Cam Lloyd.
He's going for Cam Lloyd, Walton's receiver, who's really stepped up the last few games. He had a touchdown in the Corky Kell also right before the half to put Walton up, I think, 49-0. I think he's the most explosive receiver in 7A. He is so dangerous with the ball in his hands, a great student athlete, and that would be awesome. I hope he's able to come on. But check that out tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We've got more stories up on scoreatl.com, and we'll see you then.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.